Well, hello there. I thought I'd play a game of one-page rules, and this is the story so far. Coriolanus is a husker on the outskirts of the kingdom. He's in a far-off barracks defending the kingdom, but his dreams have been horrible of late. Coriolanus wakes from one of these dreams to hear that there is some orc forces at the barricades of their encampment. In the dark, the forces seem to be restless and amassing. However, they don't seem to be making a charge towards the gate, when suddenly they hear a horn of some of the rangers call out. A band of Northman rangers are escaping from somewhere and trying to make their way towards the barricade, and among them, Coriolanus knows is his father. Coriolanus has convinced the camp commander to take himself and his squad, along with a small squad of men-at-arms, out to shepherd the rangers back into the camp. But time is limited. Coriolanus must get his father's small band into range of the archers behind the barricade walls within 4 moves. Otherwise, they may be overwhelmed. As the rain begins to fall on my tin roof, that is the scenario, and these are the forces at play. The chivalric forces have a point value of 560. Coriolanus is a high champion with all sorts of bits and pieces. He's got a bard horse and a heavy great weapon, which adds attack value. And he's been hooked up with some realm knights. That's what he's leading. But they've only got themselves a banner, but they've got the other usual effects of realm knights. With them is just a simple men-at-arms unit. They've only got a sergeant in tow. Trying to balance the forces with the models that I have meant that the human forces are quite low on upgrades, but that's okay. It should mean for a better game. And then on the other side of the board, I have Wizard Whitebeard. He is also a realm defender. He's taken the magical caster ability, so he'll be able to charge up and use spells throughout the course of this game. And he's been hooked up with some northern longbowmen. Yes, they're longbowmen. I know they've got spears and stuff, but that's what they're acting as. The longbowmen also have hand weapons as long as they're longbow. They also have fire braziers in order to. They're quite a beefy unit, so they're going to be trying to get from this side of the board to the other through the enemy units within 4 moves in order to be successful. The opposing force is an orc force of 540 units, so they have got less point value. Again, it's got to do with what models I had available. But we've got ourselves our Orc King Redhead. There he is with, well, the orangey ginger hair and the red cape. He's been hooked up with a band of black orcs as sort of like his special guard. The Orc King has himself Warcry to help move units around. He's got a heavy spear, but otherwise he's just on foot with the rest of them. We have a quite upgraded unit of orcs. There's 10 of them in total. They have got themselves a sergeant, a banner. They've even got the scary shields going. So they're going to be the infantry grunt units on this field. We've also got what I'm calling wildmen. Again, I was trying to make up the figure count to get this game going. They're wild orcs, but with no upgrades, but they will get the Strider rule to play out in a moment. And lastly, tucked away, we've got some orc shooters. They've got the usual rules. They also have a sergeant in their ranks, so they will get that bonus as well. I'm going to play the orcs with some AI rules, so hopefully they'll play out all right. And this should be a little bit of fun. So let's get the game going. I hope you enjoy. Having lost the initiative and with the main body of the orcish forces barreling it down on them, the chivalric archers fainted to the left, their caster casting some protection spells upon them and firing as they fainted. But 3 casualties would not be enough, with the wildmen crashing into the side of this force, pinning them down, hoping not only to inflict damage, but allow for time for the other orc bands to make their way closer to this unit. Now, this may not be exactly to the rules as written, however, I allowed the hero units within all of the units to sponge up the casualties hits before the whole unit did. It was at this point that the bowmen made their reply in this combat and were able to inflict over half damage of casualties to this unit. Then, after failing a morale check, this warband of wildmen would be the first force sent into flight. Barreling out of the barricade came Coriolanus and his squad of knights. They would have the fast rule and the additional inch provided in the new updated rule set, given by having a musical instrument. They were aiming to fly straight at the Orc King and his band of black orcs, hoping they'd be able to engage him first, but they came up an inch short, a fact that they would soon come to rue. After randomly rolling for the AI enemy, it would indeed be the Orc King who would close the gap on the cavalry unit, and they would be the ones who got to engage the battle first. This unit was incredibly heavily armed. Not only were they getting a lot of rolls from the black band, but also the Orc King himself had numerous dice to his dice rolls. Even after letting Coriolanus suck up some of those hit points, in the end, the unit would be smashed, losing half its number. Now, I had forgotten the Strata rule and some additional defense qualities to this unit. So as you'll see later, I actually returned one of these horsemen to the unit in order to try and balance out those rules that I had forgotten. Not ideal, but you made for a better match that way. Then, showing my ineptitude as a commander, I proceeded to make the same mistake again. Ultimately, I was aiming to keep the enemy units away from the archer unit who were trying to get across the barricade line. But once again, with the infantry unable to close the distance quick enough, the orc archers were then able to take a step back and unleash their arrows into the attacking infantry unit. At the end of round 1, the tactics may have been sound, but the execution was very poor, with all units now pinned down and unable to move to get their target to a safe zone. Having not had the unit act last, the chivalric forces would be able to act first, and it was the knights who decided to try their best and break the Black Knight group and try and remove the king from the board. But once again, they underestimated the power and the might of this incredibly difficult unit. In the end, the cavalry unit was completely annihilated, with only Coriolanus remaining to succeed with his morale roll. Once again, the fate of the battle turned against the chivalric forces, with the orcish infantry unit closing with the bowman unit and pinning them down once again before they could escape. In the end, the two units would fight to a stalemate, and with neither unit being below its half level, neither had to roll in order to see if they would be pinned or if they would run away from that combat. So the fighting would continue into the next round unless something else would happen. Now, to be honest, due to my lack of experience, I wasn't quite sure when my wizard's little casting abilities would come into play in this combat. So I decided now would be as good a time as any for him to cast his fireball in order to try and take out some of our orcish enemies. However, I did not make them roll for morale once again after that point. Finally, the infantry was able to close with the archers and inflict what damage they could to that force. However, the upgrades are fairly low on this unit, and sadly they were underperforming. The end of the second round, things were more or less where I had wanted things to have been at the end of the first, with the exception that the cavalry unit had been completely decimated. But it was at this point, possibly a little against the rules, that I decided to make a bit of a Hail Mary. I broke off Coriolanus and had him charge towards the archers. Perhaps if he could break the archers off at this point, he could change the dynamics of the battle and perhaps bring the infantry to bear somewhere else where they would be more useful. This little ruse was indeed a success, with the archers being broken, and this then gave the chivalric forces a little bit of breathing room to try and change things up. Wheel of Fate seemed to continue to turn, with finally the bowmen being able to break off their fight with the Orcish infantry, completely routing the unit. And with a narrative flourish, Coriolanus sent his infantry unit towards the Black band with their Orcish king, perhaps to try and stunt him in their process, maybe inflict more damage than they could. However, unsurprisingly, this low-level infantry unit did not stand a chance against the might of the elite in the Orcish force. With one round remaining, 3 Orcish warbands had been sent to flight, and one of the cavalry forces. But of course, the aim is to get the archers through the gate, not just kill orcs. The Orc King, knowing if he can just pin the archery unit in place, it would succeed in his purpose. However, it was now his turn to come short of engaging with the enemy. The wizard cast a wind spell, which gave a little bit of burst of speed to the unit of bowmen to try and zig and zag through the forest. They did not have the Strider rule upon them. Half a league more. The archery unit tried to make it through the gates, but in the end, as written in the rules, they would not be able to make it all the way off of the battlefield at this point. Having said that, the Orcish unit would have no chance of actually catching up either. Regardless, 4 rounds were up, and so that was indeed the end of the battle. And that is the end of round 4. That's the whole game. Now, technically by the rules, it is a draw. I was unable to get Wizard Whitebeard across the line over here into safety of the archers. However, narratively, at this point in the game, these guys are 1 move away from getting through that gate, and the orcs over there have no way of actually catching up with these guys at this stage. So on one level, I would like to imagine narratively, this is indeed a bit of a victory, maybe a Pyrrhic victory, but technically this is a draw according to the campaign rules in the book. But I had a lot of fun there. It was pretty close. I forgot rules all over the place. One-page rules is famous for being a lot more simple or streamlined in comparison to its big brother, shall we say. But even still, I find I'm losing count of who gets what bonus where, how many dice of which person I need to roll. It gets a little bit in the weeds, to be honest. I'm almost tempted just to strip a lot of that back and just keep it as simple as possible, just for my own sake, especially when playing solo. But anyway, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed it too. And maybe we will see further adventures of Thane Coriolanus and his father, Whitebeard. Why were they on the run from the east? Why is this outpost a bastion of safety? What is going on? We'll find out more maybe in the future. All right, thank you. Bye.